slowly but steadily, alhamdulillah. We started this journey in February of 2025. We've been doing the program, started with the introduction of AI, introduction of our AI team, and then slowly we started with the program for youth, and then for the people who are doing interviews, and for the people who are looking for the jobs. And later, actually, we have done some insight of AI, how the deep engineering processes are happening, like transformers and LLMs. And last month, we have done some good demos of the product. But today, mashallah, I'm not going to talk much about it because Brother Wasib, he has joined us on the right time of this AI journey. He is, mashallah, is an amazing individual. He's doing a lot of stuff for our community already, for our local organizations, alhamdulillah. So with our AI initiative, what MCC, this month, alhamdulillah, is kind of, you know, a bridge between what we have done for the past and what we are going to do in the future, inshallah. So until these 4 or 5 sessions, what we have done, introducing AI and then giving the awareness of AI with the tools which we have, and mashallah, today all those will be used, and kind of we will learn how to build a product itself. And once the product is done, inshallah, going forward, the next month, which is upcoming, and what will we do after once you have a product. So we have very exciting event in the month of November. Please look forward for it. And December, we are really, the AI team is really excited to announce the hackathon in the community. So hackathon will be for the whole month. So I am requesting all the members of our community to encourage other community members. Bring them, and we want to utilize this amazing opportunity what MCC is providing. We have talented individuals who are going to help our youth, our young generation, and all the people who are doing in AI. So it's going to be, inshallah ta'ala, a very exciting journey for all of us. And this hackathon will remain for 1 month. It's going to open, it will be on for a whole month. And January, inshallah, we'll review the products which we have, inshallah, going to do, receive. At the same time, I want to thank and appreciate the AI team as well, the core, like Bhai is here, Arpit is here, everyone, mashallah. They are taking their time out, so jazakallahu khair to them. But at the same time, you know, we all need to take our time to benefit from what they are teaching. So I highly encourage everyone to come, attend these programs, get benefited, help others, help the community, give back to the community, inshallah. With that, inshallah ta'ala, I'll not take much of your time now. I'll give this podium back to Wasib. Wasib is going to do an amazing demo today. We will learn, inshallah ta'ala, some very insightful how AI is changing our product creation and product area, inshallah ta'ala. Without further ado, I'll ask Wasib to proceed, inshallah.
Can you help me with the Wi-Fi? I don't think it's still working.
Oh, really?
And while you're setting it up... Hey, assalamu alaikum. Nice to meet you all. My name is Wasib, and I was planning on speaking today, not just for the demo, but actually having it more of an engaging workshop. And what I wanted to do was, as you look at this, put yourself in shoes of someone who's building a product. The goal that I've been thinking about, and I have been going through over the last, I would say, almost 5 years at this point in time, has been about building products, starting at side projects, and then slowly how it's permeated into my workplace. And so while this is being set up, I'll just tell you a small story about myself. I'll take you back to 2020. I'm working at Airbnb. I've been leading a team where we're working in business travel, and pandemic happens. We were about to go IPO, you know, we finished 2019 on high. Everyone was like, amazing, you know, we're going to go IPO, it's going to be awesome. January, February 2020, pandemic hits. Or, yeah, 2020, pandemic hits. In 3 months, Airbnb goes through and literally lays off 25% of that company. Most of the people that I knew that I worked with for years, all of a sudden have been laid off. The business has tanked 80%. You don't even know, like forget about IPO, we were talking about, we don't even know if you're going to have a job in a couple of months. Alhamdulillah, by the end of the year, as if some of you were tracking to the stock market, Airbnb goes IPO around, I would say probably November or December, around that time. And it was, alhamdulillah, a very successful IPO. However, once things stabilize a little bit, you go through layoffs, it's a terrible time for, and I mention that because this is a very interesting time as well, and the similarities are very interesting, so I wanted to bring that up. So we go through those layoffs, and the people who get impacted are the people who get impacted. It's terrible. But the people who don't get impacted also get a lot impacted, because all of a sudden there is a sense of fear, what's going to happen, you have no idea what's going to, what to do, what can you do differently. And of course, it's no one's fault, right? It's a business decision. So what happens is, we go back, we're starting to get up on new projects and everything else, and this project lands on my lap. We have been in talks with ICC, with the International Olympic Committee. And the Olympic Committee wanted us, they were coming out of this contract with their technology partners that they've been working with for years, and they wanted to build a new platform that would allow them to launch Olympics in any city in the world. Olympics, by the way, for those of you who don't follow it too well, are held every 4 years. Every 2 years there's a Summer Olympic, and then there's a Winter Olympic, and then there's a Summer Olympic, and so forth. So the idea was, how do you build a tool that allows you to have accommodation, ticketing, all these people, millions and millions of people that come in and descend on a city for a small period of time. How do you stop the cities from spending billions of dollars in infrastructure costs, building this whole thing up, this infrastructure for accommodating people, and then once the people go away, the Olympics are done. There's so many examples. I come from Canada. Montreal is a big one that we still talk about in Canada, where after the Olympics, Montreal has so many buildings and infrastructure that's literally decaying, right? Like investment just sunk, investment cost was just sunk. So anyway, the idea was, it was a really interesting project. Me and one of my design partners and a few others actually worked on it, and we had an amazing time. We were uncluttered in the sense that there wasn't too much focus on the core business, because hey, there was no core business, and we were like, okay, time to work on some extra projects, right? So we spent an amazing amount of time working, and we had great ideas, and we were thinking about building all of this stuff, but then after the pandemic, there was this whole shift towards the core, right? We have to focus the company on the core, so the project got shelved. But what came out of it was we took that up, and we were like, we had an amazing time working together. Again, this is 2020. And it was like, I told one of my colleagues, and I was like, I love the feeling of being able to connect with each other, the creative juices that you could actually, they were flowing in the room, and you could actually, I wish you could capture it. There was so much that is now gone. And because the people are not here, or whatever was said in the room wasn't exactly captured, and I wish we could do that. So me, our design lead, one of my friends from business school who was a developer, we all came together, and we were like, what if we were to build something that almost helps you catch this mindset, to be able to build something, and when you really feel like you're in the flow. Have you guys heard of the state of flow? When you're so deep into this creative process that you just, like, everything kind of fades away. You're literally like in a state of focus, and you can just think about it, and you feel like everything is possible. You just feel like you have it. So we were like, how could I capture that feeling and scale it, right? Because the thing about working in tech is, anytime you come across anything that's great, you're like, how do I scale it, right? Like, how do I make it available to millions and millions of people so they can actually do it every single time with the same degree of rigor and so forth. So long story short, we got together, we started building this. And I came across this company called OpenAI, and they had like a they had a GPT 3.5 development model that anybody could request if you had a good premise for what you wanted to do. So I was like, that's cool, we're building a tool that can capture creativity. And they were like, oh, that's a great idea. We have never thought about it, but yeah, I think it should do it. So then I got developer access to GPT 3.5. And we're kind of like, okay, try it out. And I tried the development portal, and I was like, man, this is amazing. Like, you can ask it and it responds, right? Like, up until now, I'm going to date myself. I grew up learning DOS. For, I don't know, those of you who have been through that journey. Like, DOS was the first operating system that, I mean, Linux was before that. But anyway, I learned command line language growing up. And then, you know, Windows came, and I was like, oh, that's amazing. You don't have to type commands anymore. But you're used to it, right? And you're like, wow, like, I don't have to. I can actually type and someone responds to me in a way which is not like error code 400, you know, blah, blah, like something which is completely cryptic and you have no idea what to do with it. You just look at it and you're like, all right, I have to like pull up a manual or go on Reddit or something like that to ask what's going on. So we were like, okay, this is awesome. Like, we literally pivoted. We're like, instead of trying to have a product flow and create these pages and stuff, we're just gonna have a very simple app. You literally can build a tool where you ask it question, you talk about what is your idea, and you iterate on it with it, and it would kind of give you like 3 or 4 different directions where this is going, and it would continue. So we built an app, and this is based on GPT 3.5. It took us about, I would say, about 10 months. We sunk about $35,000 between like the 3 of us, and for the developer costs and the infrastructure costs and everything else, and we built it. And I was like super excited. I was like, this is it. Like, this is everything I wanted to build in my life. I think I can like people will spawn over it. It's gonna be the best thing ever, and we can kind of like try to market it. So I went back to my alma mater, and there was an entrepreneurship class, and I talked to the professor, and I was like, I have this tool, and she was like, oh, that's amazing. It's great for entrepreneurship. It's great for getting ideas and stuff like that. And then similarly, I talked to one of the professors at USF, and they were super interested, so we piloted. And within a matter of weeks, we had like 500 students, 1,000 students, 1,500 students. People were just like signing up. The bad part was we were kind of like paying for tokens. We had very little idea of like how much a token cost would be. We were like, okay, this is kind of ballooning. And we're kind of funding everyone, just kind of just going nuts with this. We had no idea about red teaming or any of the other topics that I will talk about in a bit. But we did this, and but then one thing came out. It was really interesting that whatever you would type in it, it would kind of agree with you. It would, you know, build on it. But we realized that it would make up a lot of stuff. Hallucinations were a real thing, and we struggled from it. This is 2020 again, as I mentioned, and we struggled with it, and we were like, what are we going to do about it? Because we have no tooling available to deal with hallucinations. And so we just put a tiny thing there where like, please make sure that anything that says, like, you verify it. Because we were like, I don't know how people can use it. Students were starting to use it for their research. The professors are reaching out to us saying that, is this something that you give my students? Because it's making like the historical events, making up historical events, it's making up historical characters, it's making up random companies that don't exist, like what's going on? So we were like, okay, let's just like pause this. And I reached out to OpenAI, and their applied science team actually reached out to me, and they were like, can we talk to you? And I was like, sure. So I kind of walked them through this, and they were like, oh, that's really interesting. And they're like, so what kind of feedback have you been getting on this? This is 2021. I would say probably like April, May, around that time. And I was like, yeah, it's like just says stuff, and I have no idea how to stop it from just making stuff up. And they're like, yeah, there's this thing called like RAG, which is allows you to like retrieval techniques that allows you to ground it. And I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. So I started learning more about that, grounding and RAG and all that kind of stuff. Around, I believe, August or so is when OpenAI released ChatGPT, the first actual production grade tool that you could chat with the GPT 3.5 model, the large language model. And when it came out, it just took the world by storm. As you know, it's one of the fastest growing apps in the history, and has over 1 billion, probably 1.5 billion users at this point in time. And so we were like, okay, I mean, they've been putting in 10 billion or I don't know how many billions of dollars in research, creating this model and stuff like that, and we have this dingy little thing. Yeah, we, like from our perspective, we invested a ton, but it's nothing compared to what they're. And obviously ChatGPT looks and feels a lot better. So we kind of like shelved our project. And I went on, and now I am kind of like building again in a different company, tool which is very AI focused, given where technology is now. And every time I work on AI tools, I compare myself from when I was in 2020, kind of like trying to build this. And the reason I say that is because there are a few different things I'm going to discuss today, which is, what does it feel like when you have an idea and you're like, I want to build something for that idea, and I don't know what to do, I don't know how to approach it. I literally, while I was building it, the funny story is that Menlo Ventures, which is a venture capital firm in the Valley, actually reached out to me, and they were like, this is really great, like, we would like to have you as a Menlo Ventures fellow, because we have a startup program that we're launching where if you have an idea, you can, we'll connect you to all this sort of community of like other venture capitalists, all the researchers. They invited me to this OpenAI event where there were OpenAI's applied scientists and their researchers, so I got a chance to talk to them, got access to early models and so forth. So it opened a lot of different doors, but I realized at that time, after having worked in tech for almost, I would say at that point I was like 6 years into Airbnb. I had worked at Amazon before that, and I realized that when you're working in a big company that has all the infrastructure in place and you're working on a tiny little project which is looking at a tiny surface area and you're building to that, you sometimes don't realize all the work that the machine is doing to enable you to build this tiny little initiative that you're doing. However, when you have to build something, everything from scratch on your own, the struggle is real. There is a lot to do, to build, to get to a point where something is what we call production ready. The kind of issues that I struggled with when we built this app we call it Story AI was we realized that people were logging in, they just started chatting, and all of a sudden they would disappear. And we're like, what's going on? Why are people dropping off? And I asked my friends who coded it, and I was like, where's the logging? So there's this concept called logging. So every single step in your pages, you actually have a log, and you use something like a Google Analytics or something so you can see where people are dropping off. What are people clicking? What are people not clicking? What did you expect them to click versus what are they actually doing, right? You hope that people would use your app a certain way, and you give it to hands of people and it's used a completely different way, which is another thing that you learn when you're in product. So I realized, and he was like, wait, I didn't have time to put any logging in, so we have no logging. I was like, wow, we've built an app, we have no idea who's using it, we have no idea where people are dropping off, we have no idea where people are clicking. All of these things are considered essentially baseline when you're building a product at a company like Airbnb, at Amazon, or any other company. You get telemetry is what we call it. You get a lot of security stuff. We had no idea anybody could sign up. We had no idea people could do what we call prompt injections, where they can tell a model to do something else, or try to get other people's data and stuff like that. So we were kind of trying to secure that and tokenize and stuff like that. But the idea was that's the time I realized that the machine of tech companies that exist, it makes the process very simple. So as a product manager, as a builder, as an engineer, whatever you're doing something that is a small sliver of the whole thing, but the whole platform enables you to build at scale, safely, securely, and so many people test it to make sure that it's good to go. When you're building by yourself, you have none of that. So that's the first part. The second part is, which is really exciting, is that when you lose that infrastructure, what you gain is the ability to move fast. You can build very quickly, you can iterate very quickly, you can talk to your users and they're like, oh, I don't like this, I think this way is a better way to go about it, and we're like, done. Tomorrow we ship the new flow and the features completely changed. We changed the iconography, we changed the authentication. We're like, hey, Colombia wants to use it, great, we can give you like your own login page and everything else. Things move at a lightning speed because you can do it. Like, you don't have to go through multiple reviews. You don't have to sit in front of Brian Chesky and explain why the revenue might tank if you ship something, right? All of those things go away. And that is the beauty of the startup. What AI does is, before I go into AI, when I was at Menlo Ventures, I was sitting at OpenAI, I asked them the question. I was like, I have a researcher, I have designers, I have everything, but the part I'm struggling with is engineers. Like, how do I get someone to work with me for free? By the way, Silicon Valley engineering salaries, as mashallah you guys are here, are probably well aware of, they're not cheap. And especially when you're kind of like going on a shoestring budget and you're trying to fund something, your idea better be so good that people are just willing to work for you for free. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to afford it. And hiring engineers is a real struggle in the Valley. So everyone was like, yeah, I'm sorry, like, engineering is something that you just got to you got to convince someone to work for you, or your idea must be so good. So that's what I struggled with, and I was like, man, this is a real struggle, because working with engineers, by the way, is, how many of you are engineers here? Awesome. Great. I'm not going to say working with engineers. So working with technical people in general can be slightly different, because you have to speak the technical language and you speak the business language as a product manager, which makes it a kind of like a contrast, because explaining something to someone who's in engineering, you have to bring the business context, but you have to explain it in a way in terms of what you want out of it from a behavior perspective, knowing that they would have different challenges that you don't appreciate, right? You might be looking into a whole bunch of different things that I'll talk about. Long story short, we are now in 2025. GPT 3.5 LLM is something that is probably legacy. It's going to sit in some kind of museum in a bit to be like, yeah, this is what it used to be. The context windows used to be tiny. There was like so much hallucination. There was nothing, no one knew about things such as LLM as a judge. You didn't know what you could do with a large language model. You didn't have any idea of agentic flows. So much has changed in the last couple of years. And being on that ride, when I reflect back, I feel like there's now a huge opportunity. A lot of the stuff that was what I would call drudge work, like a lot of the stuff that you had to go through tons and tons of research, and you have to go through so much user interviews and find insights, the way you would have to go through and figure out what would be the better way to market something. All that stuff is now so much better and so much easier. And so what we're going to talk about today is, how does that help different people? Does it disrupt? Does it mean that someone with no experience can now go head to head with someone with 12, 15, 20 years of product experience or engineering experience and can totally just be like, hey, you know what, like I can beat them in their own game? Or is it that people who do use it and who do have the experience can now do things so much better, so much faster, and the quality is better? How has the landscape changed? Like, if you're building something now, yes, you can build a prototype. You will probably, I think all of you would have seen in your LinkedIn feeds or Google feeds or whatever media that you use, that people are like, yeah, I have like 10 agents, I ship like a feature a day, and I work on like 5 businesses and I make millions of dollars, and like AI has just like made my life so much easier and I'm just like minting money. That is not true. It does not work like that. I can guarantee you that anyone who claims that they're working alone with a team of 0 people and running 5 businesses and shipping this many features is not doing that. And if they're doing it, it's probably, what do you call, flash in the pan moment where it's happening now, but very soon it's not going to be true. So what we're going to talk and conclude with is, what is that true opportunity and how do you get to the point? Quick money, quick wins, and overnight success is something that generally is really hard, and anytime you hear that from anyone, that you can do that without any effort and you can win big, you should always question. And so we're going to talk about why that's the case in specific terms. So with that, we will kickstart this. Let me just see that the internet is working. Great. And I have multiple different screens. So the format today is going to be, I'm going to share my screen in 1 second. And once I do share my screen, you will see a QR code. Take your phones out, scan the QR code. It will take you to a form which only has 1 to 2 questions. Answer those, and I'll just have an admin board up just to kind of like show you the responses as well, but then alongside that some other insights. So we'll go from there, and then I'll explain how or why that makes sense for us at the moment. All right. Cool. Okay. And the format of this is, it's not something that I'm going to be speaking to. I'm going to be asking for a lot of input, so feel free to be open. It's a small crowd, so feel free to like chime in and talk about your own experiences, what you're looking for. I wish there was a way to have one screen, one thing on one screen and a different thing on another screen. But once you, what we're doing is, what you're providing input into, because it's a workshop, the interesting thing is a lot of the inputs that you provide now, you will see them being used
later on in the workshop. So I'll give you a little bit of insight why. So this is basically asking you two questions, which is, what's your biggest challenge with AI product development, and what describes you best? The questions will show up differently in the actual screen, and as you interact with it, give it some time, because it's pulling data directly from, it's synthesizing it directly with Claude. So depending on the speed of the connection and stuff like that, you might actually be a little bit slow in getting some responses. But as we're doing that, let me see if I can. Okay. So I'll just refresh it. So what you're seeing here is what I did to start this particular demo, or not demo, this particular workshop was, I vibe coded this tool, and as you add your data, what you should see, at least based on my testing, was yes, all right, we're starting to see some responses come through. So what it is doing is you're providing your inputs. You're saying why, what's going on, who are you, what are the kind of challenges that you might be having. Awesome, great. And what I wanted to do when I built this was I wanted to make this particular app, because for today I wanted to do two things. I wanted to understand who's the audience, what are your guys' current challenges, and I wanted to get a direct analysis in real time on what are the difficulties that we are facing. So based on the inputs that we have received so far, we have 7 inputs so far. Oh, sorry. Is it? Yeah. So what's going on is there were two things that happened when you entered the first one, as in what kind of category you fell into. The second box was around what kind of challenges do you have. I realized that a lot of times putting an open text box to say, all right, what are the challenges that you're having, tend to be harder. There's this thing called the blank screen syndrome, where if you have an open blank screen, people generally freeze and they're like, oh, I don't know what to write. So what I did was I used AI to say, all right, given this type of segment, what are the key things that the challenges might be facing? So you're seeing that, and you can hit remix, and it basically fixes that. And then you can use that as a starting prompt and add to it, depending on what feels closer. So based on what we have so far, it says that 4 of the people here said that the models were great in testing but failed with real data. I haven't looked at all the details, but it's kind of like refreshing every 5 minutes, but I can actually do a manual refresh. And what the AI does is it takes all your inputs, it gives me a distribution that we have about 2 people that, at least the way I'm reading it is, are trying to build something from scratch, but they're very much in early stage. I'm seeing that 5% or 63% of you are in advanced engineering, so you're building products that are probably in a pretty advanced stage, is from what it's picking up. Or at least you guys have models that are producing stuff, but may not be producing as well. And there's some that are looking to do some kind of strategic positioning. You want to talk to the VCs probably, you want to talk to, or you have a product that you want to speak about. And this is kind of giving me a temperature of where things are. So at a high level, we were saying 6 of us, the models were great in testing, but fall apart with the real user data, which means you need to test with real world data from day one. Interesting. This is coming directly from the analysis by the LLM. The biggest pain point is the gap between your perfect lab environment and the chaotic production systems, which is what I talked about earlier. When you're working in big companies or production systems, the machine is there to do a lot of the grunt work, a lot of that heavy lifting around making sure whatever you're building is actually ready for the real world. When you build yourself, you run into the production readiness of your product. And you keep getting surprised by the edge cases and distribution shifts when you deploy, which means you need to understand your real users and so forth. So, okay, so it kind of gives a pretty good sense of that, about what are we looking at, 67% of the people are in a spot where, or I'll probably say about 2/3 of the people here from what I'm seeing are actually building stuff and have stuff in pretty advanced stages. where are we getting stuck? Half of you call yourself aspiring, but you're tracking to advanced production, so you're probably not too aspiring. You're probably further ahead than aspiring, at least. That's what the assessment here is. And the challenge is basically that you're looking at, you need to focus on one skill at a time. This is an interesting one. Who expects, you're dealing with stakeholder who expect perfect AI from day one. This is actually a really interesting analysis because going back to my analogy of 2020, I actually reached out to one VC who I really admired based on his social media presence, what he was talking about, and I pitched him what I had built, and he looked at it. He was like, "It's there, but it's not ready yet. I don't think it's something that people can use because it's just hallucinating. There are a whole bunch of different reasons." And that's actually a real gap when you look at building anything with AI, and I'll speak to that. Customer expectations are sky high. When you build with AI, people expect something that's just magical. It works out of the box. It just knows them better than their, I don't know, like their own selves, right? Like they want to be amazed from the beginning, and you have to set the expectations accordingly. And I wasn't reading this, but yes, you have to set realistic expectations about what your product is. Sometimes when you are pitching versus what your product is, there is a real tendency to overpromise because you're like, this is, I'll get there, but I'm not there yet. And there are some real technical challenges that are currently in place. So, all right. So this is an overview. There are 9 inputs. This was like a good overview of what it is. And as you can see, what I had done was I literally like built this in 20 minutes yesterday as I was taking our kids for movie night, and just tweaked it a little bit while I was there. But the idea here was that is what is possible with AI. You can actually build things like those very quickly and deploy them, and you can see people actually use it. So this is one example. All right. We will continue with this theme of using our products, but let's continue moving forward with what it is. So the core of what we are looking to do today is I wanted to, if you saw the first slide, I basically called it a multi-part series because this by no means is meant to be something that will give you the foundational knowledge of how to start building. But I wanted to float the idea of what it is, like just to give you a good sense of what it is to build a product, right? And the fundamental concept when you're building a product is you want to position yourself in shoes of a product manager, and you need to really understand your users and understand what their mindset is, right? Who you're building for. And the biggest thing there is product market fit. You need to understand who your users are, and then based on that you need to understand what is it that they need or want, and that's what you build towards. And the biggest need for a product manager is to understand the user's needs. Majority of those needs are never vocalized. People never say what they want. And so you have to figure out through different ways. And there are a whole bunch of different tools that are available that you can use to determine that. But the idea here is that finding product market fit is a real hard problem. Majority of the companies fail at finding that problem. And that's why you see such a high failure rate. 90% of the startups fail. The reason is not because they can't build. The reason is because they're not technical enough. The reason is because they are not addressing a problem that people actually have, or at least well enough. So that's a starting point. So foundational principle, anytime you start building a product, remember to ask yourself the question, what is it that people truly want from that? And the other part that helps is that you're passionate about it. Oh, it's still the same thing? Actually, yeah, is it better? Okay. I'll have to keep adjusting because, is it still readable? If not, then I'll bring it in. So what I was talking about earlier, the core shift that has happened is we talk about AI as a French Revolution. We talk about it that people before AI and we talk about people after AI. We talk about as if like things are changing. People are going to lose jobs. People are not going to be able to compete with what AI has. AI is going to literally replace so many people. I firmly believe that's not going to be the case. It's what I call the printing press of the revolution, not the French Revolution. It's not a change of old guard. It's basically is printing press. And for those of you who remember, what printing press did was it allowed books to be printed at scale. It was a tool that platformized the ability for masses to be able to get access to books. And what that did was that all of a sudden the authors that could only reach out to a small audience because publishing books was ridiculously expensive, they became really big. The audience outreach became like a big thing, and that changed a whole bunch of different things. A lot of people's jobs changed, but they weren't completely lost. And I think that's the key point I wanted to bring it here. What AI does in the same vein is it democratizes execution. The point that I brought earlier, when you were talking previously in Silicon Valley, and it'd be like, I want to work with an engineer because I have an idea and I think it's a really great idea and I just need someone to be able to build it. Now you can. You can actually build it and have a prototype ready within a matter of hours, if not days, depending on how complex your idea is, with probably $40, right? You get a Claude subscription and you can build it. And you can do research and you can do so many more things. But what happens at the same time is people who are building, it gives them the same tools. So the playing field is not leveled in the sense that someone who has never built a product can now have amazing ideas that they can build with. But people who have been building, they have this thing called product sense. How many people here have heard the word product sense? Awesome. 3 people. Product sense, for those of you who don't know, is being able to, if you have sat through watching people use your product over and over again, you eventually develop the sense of what is it that would work for people from a user interface perspective, from the design perspective, from usability perspective, from how long it takes to load the page, from where a button is, from a whole bunch of different things. And you just get the sense because you're like, I understand this. And the product sense varies, right? Like my product sense is very, I would say, sharp relatively in business travel space because that's what I'm in. But if you were to ask me to build like the next Instagram or like maybe an email tool, I would suck at it because I have not looked at users who have interacted with that space. So product sense is very specific, but it tells you a good sense of how people use a product and what kind of product to build. And what kind of insights to take and what kind of and where to filter out the noise. I think that's the big one. So differentiating between the noise and the signal becomes a very critical thing. And what we talk about is the tactical execution becomes democratized, and which means that you can build a lot faster. Market research, code generation, data synthesis, all these are very hard problems. You would need a data scientist, you need a go-to-market person, you would need so many people. You can actually do all of their work with AI. But you need for each of those understanding of that signal, and that's what I'll speak to in a little bit. Strategic judgment becomes more valuable, which is your product sense. And AI is an amplifier, not an equalizer. So the point here is that AI makes it easier for you to do whatever you were doing a lot better, a lot faster, but it doesn't replace your thinking. It doesn't replace your gut feeling. It doesn't replace the human sense of what is it that people would like to see, right? Like AI will make a really bad product shinier bad product. It wouldn't make it an amazing new product that people would love to use. That's the example. If I were to give like AI, it can replicate Airbnb website immediately. It can probably, if you give it some data and context, it can probably make it slightly better. But it will not tell you or build for you the next travel accommodation, alternative accommodation tool that can literally overtake Airbnb. It just won't be able to do that because it has no data or no reference point to understand what that would look like. And that's where imagination, creativity comes in. And so it can be augmenting your thinking process. It can bring you research, but it just throws everything in the kitchen sink when you ask it anything. You have to be the one to pick the right gems, pull them together, ask and iterate on it, and that's when you get like a refined product. And we will see that happen shortly. The example I give here is that Sarah is an experienced PM working, for 15 years or so, spends majority of her time on execution. She works on research and docs and analysis and some on strategy. That's typically what a product manager does. Ahmed here is someone who has not done anything but has great ideas, has never really built a product. But now with AI, I can actually execute really fast. His outputs can look very similar to what Sarah's outputs look, except when you start reading them. How many of you have heard of the word called AI slop? S-L-O-P. Awesome. That is something that's new. Anthropic has actually has huge billboards in New York right now about it. AI slop is, you go in, I'm your manager, I'm like, all right, great, I want you to build me, or I want you to do this research. You just take the prompt, you put in ChatGPT, you hit the research option there. Maybe you're like, you know what, I'm going to do deep research. So you do deep research on that, and then now you get like a 15, 20, 30 page beautiful document, and you read like the first 5 pages, you're like, sounds about right, okay, great. Copy the whole thing, put it in Google Doc, ship it over to a manager, and be like, all right, it's all done. I get that document, and I start reading it, and I'm like, okay, I see it, like here's a broad idea, let's see what, how he's recommending implementing it. All of a sudden you start reading through, things just start falling apart. The user segments make 0 sense. The go-to-market strategy is literally a reference, but there is no greater detail to it, and you're like, I don't get it, right? You, as a manager, then have to do a lot more research to be like, okay, I have to now read it, research it, and do a lot more thinking to fix it, even to put comments in. That is called AI slop, because now what you're doing is you're taking the cognitive work that someone eventually has to do as a human being, and you're transitioning and you're saying, all right, here's something, now someone else has to do the thinking and come back to you and be like, 50 million comments. Like my comments ratio on documents now has gotten so bad that I literally open a document and I'm just commenting. Like we discussed, this is not going to be the case. Why is it still here? The reason it's still here is because AI doesn't have the context. We discussed in a meeting, something is out of scope. AI didn't get the memo. The product manager just literally copy pasted the document, and now I have all the stuff that was out of scope in the document, and that is called AI slop. So what the point I'm trying to make here is that with AI, you can create beautiful looking documents, but it doesn't replace what is the actual thinking that needs to be done to make those truly productive and actionable. Zoom a little bit. What I'm gonna do is actually zoom in like this so I can actually scroll, because when I do command, then it just goes over the screen. So give me 1 second. Yep. All right. So I want to take a step back, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about product management, because a lot of people here are technical. Based on our initial intake, about like 67% of the people are actually more technical. So when you are building a product, there are 5 core functions which we call product team. And that's generally called like a product cohort that you will work with. A product manager generally is the one who's the center of it. They will request things such as market research, talk to the stakeholders, do prioritization of what we would build, because you would never build every single thing that you would want to do. You would build something what we call an MVP, or minimum viable product. If I want to build an intake form for MCC that is able to match people with their interests, so we can be like, all right, you have this technical expertise, you're working on this, you have done XYZ things, you're running into these problems, who in this group can I pair you with, who would be an amazing partner for you and have similar kind of interests, and you can actually partner with them and build something which would be really great. There are so many ways to building that. That is a challenge that we will work on today as part of our workshop, but I wanted to give you an idea of like, as you do that, that requires you to do prioritization. You can never build something that's all the way to the end the very first time. That is called scope creep. So you would want to do is you would identify 2 or 3 things that you would want to build, and then you build that, and a product manager generally does that work. A designer, what they do is they usually handcraft mock-ups. They will use tools such as Figma, they will use tools, well, primarily Figma, but now there are other tools as well, that you can use to design what your product would look and feel like. This is called the UX, which is the user experience, and the UI, which is the user interface. They bring that together, and that is what brings your product to life. You can see the prototypes, you can get excited, because up until now, you have been writing down these one-pagers or product requirement documents. You say that what is it supposed to do? You have things such as, this is what the users want, but how is it supposed to look like? And when you start seeing things, what they look like, actually, it inspires you. A good designer brings the aspiration and inspiration in the team. They're the ones that basically bring the collective imagination together and put it on a screen. And when you see that, you're like, wallahi, this is something if I build, people are going to buy it, right? And that is what you feel once you have been working on a product and you start seeing what it looks like, what it feels like. It feels like your actual baby. I mean, I had 3 kids. My wife would definitely not agree with that, but I would say, like, if you're building something and you start seeing what it looks and feels like, you have a ton of opinion as a product manager. And so when you build something, I would suggest, that is one thing that you would do. Oh, I should pause. Do you want to take a break? Do you want me to continue for it, or do you want to people? What I was going to do, just to give everyone a good time check, I was going to speak a little bit about the product functions, but then I was very quickly going to get into just like a bit of building, and then we're going to get into actually building a product.
So I think we should come back after.
Okay. So if you want, I can actually finish up, and so when we come back, we can actually build. Or do you want? Does that work for everyone? Okay. So I'll just quickly finish it up. You're all engineers, a lot of engineers here, so you understand what engineering is. With AI, it has become a lot more interesting. I'm not going to talk about what AI does, because when we do the actual experience, you will get a chance to see what truly AI is able to do. User research, again, they usually would do interviews, they would do a lot of analysis, and understand the recognition between what types of user segments there are. We use a term in product called ICP, or ideal customer profile. It's one of those things which ideally when you're building a product, you should know. You should know who's your customer, what age they are, what demographic they are, what are they feeling, what are they doing, why are they coming to your product, and what is the true pain point that you're looking to solve for them. So that is one of the biggest things. A user researcher does that. They would typically take your work of the designer and keep going back to the users that are interested and show them and ask them, like, is that something that you're interested in? How would you use this? And they do a lot of those interviews. And then you have data analysts. These are the analysts who actually do a lot of data analysis. They would be the ones who would tell you how many people are actually getting through what we would call the product funnel, where they're dropping off, what are the quantitative insights that you can get from the user data that you have, and then what does it mean, and how do you bring them in to improve your product. So these are the type of roles that currently exist within a lot of tech companies and any company that's building a digital product. And if you are building a product by yourself, you may not have all of these people, but you will need to do all of these roles to build a sound product. If you build a product without proper research, you probably will have issues down the line with product market fit. If you don't have data analysis, you might not even know what the size of and you might be building for a market of one, primarily yourself, and then you realize that, great, I love this product that I built. It has product market fit for one person, right? So that's what you need to think about when you're building it, and that's where the research comes in. So just quickly go through in the next 5 minutes, because this is just a high-level view, but the idea here is that typically when you're building a product, you go through 3 stages. First you do discovery, then you do the actual building of the product, and then you have to improve it. Based on the survey results I saw, it seems like majority of the people have gone through engineering, are building it, and then they realize as they start to ship it that things are not quite working. You're finding mistakes in AI, you're having these things called AI drift, you're having these things called, with AI you run into these issues where eventually the model stops working, because if it's a recursive model, it's learning, and you don't have something like an LLM judge or some kind of a qualitative or quantitative method to make sure that it doesn't drift, you will eventually have a model that just does not work. So those are some of the things that you have to think about as you're building it. So that's a high-level view. I'm not going to go into each of these details, but I think given that we have some time, I'll give you a bit of an idea of how it has changed. Traditionally, when you're doing discovery, you would do this thing called story-based interviewing. You would talk to a few people, and you will say, tell me about it last time when you did this. What is the key pain point that you have? You focus on their needs, their pain points, what they want out of life, out of this product, how does it compete with everything else they've been doing. What AI does is it basically is able to test a lot of these underlying assumptions immediately. You can actually build something that goes and queries Reddit, millions and millions of data points, and validate that are people actually saying that that's truly a pain point for them. I do that with business travel a lot. I would basically query Reddit's threads around business travel, and I'll see what are people saying that they hate about business travel. And then you look at it and you're like, what do they say about your competitors? There's so much that you can find from unstructured data that you can bring in that can give you a really good signal. The other thing is AI prototypes make it really easy. So you can actually build something which doesn't work. We're going to do that. And see, you know, like what the user interface looks like. That kind of gives you a good sense of what is possible and what would people do with it. So you start simple and you make it more complex. So that's your phase one, which is your discovery. Once you have done discovery, you start building. You start building with a prototype. A lot of people, if they haven't built production-ready systems, they look at a prototype, it looks flashy, it works 20% of the time, but it's so good that you're like, this is it, I'm going to send it to so many people, and then it breaks. It just doesn't work because prototypes are not meant to be production ready. They don't have a lot of these systems in place. We have things such as authentication, which is basically when you use your username and password to actually go and enter, so your data is secure. I don't know if you know, there was an app called Tika, something like that. The idea was that people would just anonymously go, or no, they had to register, so they would have their username and password, but they could anonymously post things that they hated about their social life. They would be able to, you know, talk a lot about like, oh, you know, like about their friends, about people that they met, but they didn't know as well, and they would be able to post those pictures and be like, you know, all of this stuff, and the data got leaked. And the hacker was able to get access to everyone's name, who posted what, who are they talking about, and a lot of them was the Muslim community, which actually had a lot of the rishta aunties kind of like, you know, connecting like guys and girls and everything else, and that just got all leaked, right? And you have a real issue. You build a system which is not production ready, you have real life consequences, and that's the point. You need authentication, and if you see an app which does not require you and it's vibe coded, be very, very careful about what you put in. User flow, system design, there's a whole bunch of different things, but that's the idea behind engineering. The reason you pay engineers so much more money is because they make your data secure, they make the system production ready, you have all these databases at the back end and everything else that need to be there. And the last thing, before we wrap up, is observability. Once you do have an AI system in place, you need a whole bunch of different things around how is an LLM performing, how are people interacting with your LLM, and then you basically synthesize into what we call failure modes, as in where are things not working the way they're supposed to be working, and then how do you automate that detection at scale. So with that, we're going to pause, and when we come back, we're going to do this, which is what does context mean, and how do you use context to build something incrementally better.
Inshallah, we'll come back after Isha. So this is a very exciting event going on. I know people are really keen to go further in this demo, inshallah. So right after Isha is at 8 p.m., probably around 8:20 after Sunnah, we'll be back here, and Brother Wasib will conclude. And after that, inshallah ta'ala, if we have further questions, we'll take it forward. Okay. Assalamu alaikum. And also other logistics. We have some snacks right after the program, inshallah. Please help yourself. Assalamu alaikum.
just quick logistics. What we're going to do is we'll go with like 10 minutes. Zaheer bhai, all right, okay. I thought Zaheer bhai handed over the mic to me, but he's back again. So what we're going to do is for next 10 minutes, we will do a demo. So Brother Wasif will actually go through the demo, and then what we'll do is we will leave the rest of the time for Q&A. So this way, I mean, if you have any question in regards to the demo, you can definitely ask those questions. Or if you have any generic questions itself, you can also ask those as well. So that's what we will do. So again, I mean, this is going to be more like an open forum so that anyone can ask question. At the same time, we got a lot of AI core team members here. They can also chime in to provide any kind of response. So that's what we will do. 10 minutes?
Yeah, 10 minutes.
All right.
All right, so
There you go.
we're going to be building, and so I'm done talking now. So the context matters a lot, and that's what you will see. So what are we building? I'll just set that up. So assume that we are looking to build, for this AI MCC initiative, I want to make it bigger. For this initiative, what we want to do is, let's make like an intake form, which basically tracks participants across what we would call multiple cohorts. We don't know how many cohorts there are, what kind of people are interested in this, so you would want to, that's what you want to build for. How do we collect their needs? How do we match them to the right programming? Some people are here just for probably just understanding. Some people are actual builders, and some people actually have built stuff and then they're trying to pitch it. So with that, I'm gonna switch over. I'm gonna go to I'm gonna open my Claude instance actually, and I'll go to I've been tracking as a separate project. So all right, this is what Claude looks like. For those of you have not used it, this is one of the large language models that I will be using today to build out the user interface part of it. So I'll open it up. The goal here is we're trying to build an intake tool in which people can enter their details, what they're interested in, what they're looking to do, and what we want the tool to do is to do automatic matching, right? And being able to segment the people, being able to engage them, so you know, we can build these cohorts and we can drive them to accomplish whatever the goals are. We don't know yet, but we want to build this tool like that. So the basic, what would be, without context, what I would want it to, before I open it up, the most basic way of building this is we can just take a very basic prompt. We can say build an intake form for me, for my workshop that I'm looking to do, and this, and we can just put it in here and see what it actually does. But before I do that, are there any suggestions? Like if you were building a tool, what would you typically put in? I'll just open it up. Anyone? You're building an intake tool. You just put a prompt. Like what prompt would you like to give it to build something? That is true. Yeah, we would want to get to all of that stuff, but without any of those details, if you just wanted to put in a very basic one, you're like, all right, I have none of that stuff. I don't even know that I need to ask those questions, right? I am new to product building. I am just here. Zaheer bhai called me up and he's like, I'm doing this AI program. I want you to build something, you know, nice, so that has AI in it. Typically, I kid you not, a founder, like a CEO, who does not know anything about AI and has only heard buzzwords would call out a product manager and say, can you build me a tool which has AI sprinkled over it? Literally, I've been told that. AI sprinkled over this product and show me what this product looks like. What would the prompt be here? In my opinion, it would basically be, I have no idea what I'm building. I have no idea how to sprinkle AI on it. So I'll say, hey, build me an intake tool for workshop that has, I don't know, like participants, across all experience levels. I am new to this space. I have no idea who these people are, and I want them to be engaged. So, or maybe I'll say I'll choose a Sonnet 4.5, which I like better, and I'll say build a UI for me to for this intake. Very simple, makes sense. and we'll let the LLM loose, and we were like, all right, this is your introduction to AI. Like you now have tools which will do thinking by themselves, which will literally take what you're asking them to do and just provide something. The part I should have done was not, okay, you'll see what it means. So, so Claude has gotten smarter now. What it does is, and part of it I'll tell you why it has gotten smarter, is it see the prompt, it's like, great, I see you're looking to build this. I have no context. What are you looking to do? Right? So it's like, what is your experience level? How comfortable are you with building products? What's your workshop context? What kind of workshops are you running? What are you trying to accomplish here? Right? I think those are some really insightful questions, some of them that you were mentioning, but some of them not here. It didn't ask me about segments. It didn't ask me about what kind of people, what are they looking to do, etc. So we will say, all right, let's respond to it. Your experience level, let's say I'm a beginner, I have never built a product. Never built a product. But I'd like a UI. The great thing about LLMs is that you can just be very honest, and they don't judge you, so it's perfect. Then you say, all right, your context, right? What kind of workshop are these? Is this? So we're saying this is for the local Muslim community to help explore AI technology and leverage it for learning. Let's say, sorry. Building and marketing products. And then the last question was your learning goal. What are you hoping to accomplish? Yep, definitely need a working prototype ASAP. Zaheer Bhai has to leave in 5 minutes. We need very urgent prototype. You can literally put in anything in the AI, and the good thing is it's able to cut the noise out a little bit, but it's understanding the need, and the urgency is very well understood, and it's at work. The code is being built as you see. Do I need to make it bigger? I can see it. So we'll give it a couple of minutes. It's built some form. As you can see, it's building a few fields. It's getting some experience level. The reason I was mentioning here is that this is a little bit of cheating is because Claude has this thing called projects. So what I have done is I have a separate project here for MCC AI, and I have been sparring with it and having a lot of different other conversations here, which you haven't seen, which does provide it some context, so it's a little bit unfair. But if you were to ideally put it in, like a project which has zero concept or zero context, it would actually be slightly different. And then the second thing that I have done while it's building it, I'll take a moment to show you some things about Claude. How many people here have used Claude, by the way? All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, cool. So one interesting about Claude as it's building is you can actually provide it instructions. So I have a really long prompt here about how the LLM should behave, right? And you can, there are different ways to do it. So this is an educator persona that I have given it, which means that it's actually an instructor in this particular scenario. So it behaves like that. I have different ones for my different projects. Some are my sparring partners where it would challenge everything. I have a Pakistani dictator persona, which just puts me down every single time and threatens me. Which actually is really good, Self-preservation really helps you come up with some of the really interesting things. All right. Amazing. This reminds me of 1990s. Like, again, we didn't give it too much information, and this is what your AI workshop looks like. We told it it's Muslim community, so there's a crescent there. No members have shared so far anything, but it basically builds like a very basic looking tool. I don't know if you can read all the details. But the idea here is this is that kind of a UI that it came up with very little context, right? And that's the point I was trying to make, which is with very little context and very little guidance, you come up with something which is not really too inspiring or anything like that. And that is truly AI. Now if you were to take this, and if you were to provide it more context, so so say something along the lines of what you were talking about, that, all right, we have 3 cohorts, suppose. We have people who are aspiring builders, might be job seekers, might be students, there might be active builders who are actually looking to prototype stuff. You have funded founders, etc. Like, what would that look like? So let's take this, add it there. Can you please refine this based on the following? I'll remove the challenges here, or actually what I'll do is, what I also did was, based on your inputs on my tool, I had actually created this thing called export summary. So it takes all the summary and it actually copies it on my my clipboard. So I can actually say recommend tracks, see challenges below. So I'll just copy paste the challenges that were there. And then what I'll do is I'll paste the challenges so this is what my other tool had outputted based on all the participants. So we had 12 participants, they had a whole bunch of different things, so I just had it formatted so it basically outputs this. So I copy pasted that. Let's see, can you please refine this UI just to make sure that it doesn't give me a document? And then, so this now becomes my refinement prompt, right? So I look at it and I was like, all right, this is not great. So I want you to make this, let's just make sure there are no errors. It's not waiting for me. All right, it's starting to refine. So what I told it was, can you build me with these 3 cohorts? These are the challenges that I have gotten from the user research in a way. And the task is to create, I should have read it better. I don't want it to create a user requirements document. I wanted to actually create a UI, but let's see what it comes back with. But you get the feel of it, right? Like you're trying to come up with a UI, and the more context you provide it, the better it gets. If you provide it nothing, it would basically not really provide you like a reasonable output. In this particular case, what it's doing is it's refining. So I don't know if I'll make it bigger so you can see. You can actually see live, it's changing numbers. So it basically started updating the different cohorts. It's like, what is the challenge? It started putting in cohorts like that best describe you, that kind of stuff, right? And see what your top challenges look like, etc. Let's see where it finishes. It's still updating. So based on this, I'm gonna ask you guys. So what do you think is what's a general view? Like, what do you think about this output? What's wrong with this output? Like, what could it, or said differently, what could be improved here? There are a lot of things that could be improved here, but if you were to shout out a few things, what could be improved? 2025 UI, that's one. But what would 2025 UI mean? Would it be more stepwise? Is it just the font and the color? You wanted the gradients to be nice? Like, what do you mean? What are we talking about here? It doesn't have a flow. It doesn't have an entry point, right? Like, and the reason I'm asking these questions is because remember when we had all these different types of things around, like what are the different roles, right? If you ask a product manager and you put a one-pager in, you will get this as an output. As a purely like product manager working by themselves, you will get this. Then you'll get a user researcher, and the user researcher will say, all right, how do people like to interact with this product? What is the general flow of like how do people like to do? They would provide some kind of a flow, right? You would have some kind of a design or something like that. So what you can do, if I were to go here and ask it a different question, act like a user researcher. Because we don't have enough time, we can't do different ones. We'll say user researcher and a designer, and create a comprehensive prompt for a user intake form that connects people based on their interests. My spelling might be off today. And understands their backgrounds to match them. And then I'll also say, for the design, make it Apple-like, flows and icons, as well as minimalism and aesthetics. All right, Apple, everyone loves Apple. Also, make it modern, like Airbnb. I mean, Apple is a bit old school. And then we'll say we'll do research. So I have my research on and extended thinking, and then I'll let it go. Oh, I'll also look at competitive products to identify best-in-class practices. All right. Now you have a research going on which basically provides you a very detailed view of what is available. It will start, if you look at the details, it'll be like, all right, connect people based on their interests, understand their backgrounds, have Apple-like design, be minimalistic and aesthetic, be modern, and look for competitive products. Great. And then it's asking me a whole bunch of questions. I'll say use your best judgment. And then based on that, it would go away, and it would actually do a whole bunch of user research, and come back with. I'll turn off all of the different tools that I have enabled to do a lot of the research, and what this does is it would actually go and it creates an agent, an AI agent, which is basically called a lead researcher. And it would create a research plan which goes and looks at a whole bunch of different things, and it will create 5 or 6 sub-agents which will go do web research, will go competitor analysis, it will do market analysis, it will do design analysis, it will do flows, it will do everything. All the different people that I showed earlier, it will go through each of those and provide a comprehensive report. I can literally take that report, convert it into a prompt, and then put it in as my revised prompt, and you will see a completely different product UI emerge as a result. While it's doing all of that stuff, I was going to pause and ask what questions you guys have, because this process generally takes a little bit of time, so we'll let it run. But in the meantime, based on what we have done so far, what are some of the questions that you have so far? Yes, please. Mm-hmm. Yes, so that's a great point. And while it's doing this, you can absolutely do that. And what happens is, the way I was thinking about, I'm gonna jump at the very end of this thing. What happens is that across all of these, what you have touched on are these. To build a product of the fidelity that you're talking about engineering as well as deep dive evals phase. So what happens is, you can build a product, and the way you would approach it is, first you would want to see who are the people. So the first part would be the intake form that you've talked about, right? Now, that's great. So you have all these people who enter their data. Awesome. You have people's data about the service providers. Now, when you look at it from a user perspective, if you were not affiliated with MCC. You were an average Muslim family living in the Tri-Valley area, and you see someone's name listed here. What would be the first red flag that would come to your mind? Put yourself in the user's shoes. I'm showing you, I'm looking for a plumber. You go to this website, or no, not for a plumber. Let's say I'm looking for someone who can, what kind of services? The dentist, right? I'm looking for a dentist. I see this one dentist listed here. What would be the first question that I would have? How good of a dentist is he, right? Like, why should I go to him versus Roberto, who has like a lineage, like father was a dentist, grandfather was a dentist, who's been practicing here, ton of amazing reviews. Why should this guy be better, right? Do I want to give him a business because he's Muslim? Then that's perfectly fine. Or do I want to give him a business because he is truly like a good dentist for me and my family, right? So there's this thing called social proof. Right? So you have all these intakes, but how do you bring the social proof in to say that all these people have gone there, have an excellent experience? He has amazing facilities, he's well qualified, he went to top Ivy League schools, all of that stuff, did everything, understands, speaks your language, you know, can connect with your grandmother as well as your daughter, you know, like just has that breadth, like, you know, talks Gujarati and Hindi and Punjabi and all kinds of languages. This is the perfect dentist you will never find anywhere else. But if you were to just take the dentist's input, as in this is his name, this is his address, place of business, these are his qualifications, and you just publish that, you lose that context, right? And I look at it and I'm like, I don't know who this guy is. I would go to the person that I do know. So that is where the uniqueness of the app comes in, where not only are we just publishing like a 411 version of like these are the people that are within the Muslim community that are providing these services, but why should you as a user use them, right? And that's what we get questioned on. Like when we build products, from a consumer perspective, the first question that gets asked is, why should people use it, right? Why should people pay $25 to take an Airbnb experience when they can pay $10 to take the same experience, maybe like with 50 other people and crying babies and everything else? And you're like, yeah. So the idea here is that you think about all of those things. So you can definitely build it with this, but if you build it without context, you will see what we had as a first iteration, right? Like a 90s website which looks like, you know, Craigslist version of like the community, and you can have people search it. It works, it does what it's meant to do, but does it do well? Would it get traction? Probably not, right? So that's where the researchers comes in. So maybe we'll go back and see where it's at. So if you do a research like this is again Claude again, right? So you basically ask the same thing, but then you ask it the same question around like, how do dentists or how do service providers, what are the best-in-class service provider listing methods, right? How do they drive engagement, right? Is it only listed, or are there other ways? Like, what if you were to create a marketplace where people are then searching for these people, providing their details, and how do you make sure that you understand the family better, right? So maybe when you do more research, you realize that not only do would it make sense for us to have these service providers, but what if we could ask the Muslim families to register, right? Like a service kind of a method. You have a membership, you pay a little bit, you tell a little bit about your family, like who do you have, and then you start searching for service providers. But every time you search for a service provider as a user, you running this thing get a signal saying that this family searched for X service provider. That means they have this need, right? And then you look at the other thing, which is, did they convert? Did they actually end up getting the service or not? If they did not, then you basically have a question on why did they not move forward versus why they did, right? And that's the line of thinking that you go towards, and then you ask yourself, like, that's called conversion, right? So you see, did they convert or did they not convert? And if they did not convert, what were the factors? Was it because the availability? Was it because of the distance? Was it because of pricing? Was it because of lack of services that were providing? All of those different things. And that prompts you to go the other direction on the marketplace, which is, I need to go and find other Muslim service providers which provide me this other breadth of service, because it seems like the community has one need. The service provider is only providing this, right? And I have a gap between people's needs and what people are providing. And how do I bridge that gap? And then that's when you can start promoting people to say, or promoting to service providers to say, this is the need in the community, who can fill this need, and you meet these criteria and we'll promote you, right? And that becomes a different model. So that's where the evolution happens, and that's where this research comes in. Because the moment you start doing that, you can actually build AI native tools that can give you those signals. And so it's not just a forum that connects people, it now is a forum that is actually evaluating, refining, and then connecting people. Maybe you should have a message to the family saying that, oh, by the way, you reached out to this dentist, we realized you didn't end up using it, but what was the reason, right? Like, who did you end up going with, right? And we would like to get more people who are within that practice so we can promote our Muslim community to provide those services as well. And that would resonate a lot more than just have a dentist in place. So not to drone on that, but the idea is that that is all possible, and you can do all of that stuff within 2 days with AI, right? It would not be secure by any means, but it would be possible. So that's a great point. So what happens is, once you start building it, what you realize is that you build it in 3 different steps, right? So first you build a prototype, and you refine it based on all of this line of thinking that I mentioned. You are not deploying anything. You're literally just building it, getting it through users. You're getting service providers to use it to say, what is missing here? What else would you like? You're getting families to use it to be like, all right, what do you think is missing here? Once you have done that, then you start building it properly with security, right? You have authentication. You build databases at the back end, which are actually authenticating. You don't store people's names in the same database where you store their other details and stuff like that, that separates it. So if someone hacks into one, your whole information isn't completely, available. You would, and you have all these things called like tokenization, and you do encryption and so forth. So that is called production ready system. So once you have done prototyping, then you actually need real engineers, at least now, to do that 20% of the work to fix a lot of these things, to make them scalable. Because right now, once you build a prototype, it would work. It wouldn't be secure. It wouldn't be fast. It would fail a lot. It would break a lot. And majority of the times when people try to use it, it might actually not even allow them because maybe your database wasn't as big, or maybe the service that you deployed it on wasn't as fast, all of those things. So that's when you look into production readiness of it. You do these things called pen testing, which is the security penetration testing, where people try to come in and break the system. And now with AI, there's a whole thing called prompt injection. So what happens is if you just have, if you have not put in guardrails around your AI, people can actually try to get AI to do these things where to divulge information it might know. So all of those things are the ones that actually get impacted. But this kind of gives you an idea, right? When I'm talking about research, look at this. It has now looked at 113 sources just to understand the flow. It has looked at 102 resources for the flow, 113 resources for typography and design aesthetics, and 103 resources for the questions that it should be asking and how it should be asking it. Now it's researching user matching algorithms, how to improve onboarding. We had no flows, right? We had no onboarding. We didn't know anything about these users. We didn't know what information should we collect earlier, what information is too much information versus what information is too little information, and how do you bring that in? How do you do the connections in terms of like what is important, what's not important? So the researcher is doing all of that stuff. What I will say is the part that I will want to do is I have a prompt because the researcher does take a very long time. So I realized that would be the case. So here's a prompt that I had done, which was basically we say, all right, we need these improvements in this, right? To make it, so the prompt that I asked was, I don't know if it's readable, but what I had asked was, let's iterate on it to make it world class. Like what would make this world class, right? Specific improvements. Text on mobile, right? Majority of the people that use these apps on the go, they're using either a mobile or they're looking at the app on their phone. It's called a web app, as in they don't have a native app. You don't have anything installed on your phone, but you're just accessing the website on the browser. The other thing is, so it has to be good on MoWeb because you have a smaller screen size. It has to be progressive disclosures, as in there has to have proper flow, right? You slowly ask information. You don't just give them like a 20-page document to say, fill all of this information and then let me know. That's called progressive. Make email truly optional because people don't like sharing personal information up front until they don't have trust. Use real-time feedback loops. Show themes like immediately, so that provides what we call more traction. As you start typing and the AI can tell you, sounds like you're working on XYZ, or sounds like you might be a good fit for this kind of a track, that provides more stickiness. There's a social proof. We can say this many community members are actually doing XYZ thing. Then you're like, oh great, that's awesome. I didn't even realize that other people were doing something similar. Accessibility, like how do you make shortcuts easier? How do you, like loading states with personality, as in like analyzing your challenge, as opposed to just saying loading ... Like, there's all those kind of things. There's a visual polish. There's a data quality signals around how do you make it less AI-like and more personal. How do you detect basic things such as duplicates? How do you flag high-quality submissions? So that's where the prompt becomes a lot longer. And if you were to use that, so not to go, it's already 8:51, so I'll leave you guys from being a captive audience and just kind of quickly show you what this might actually look like. So going back to our 1990s form, let's say, can you please update this based on the following? And what you would see would be a massive difference compared to where we are now, because all of a sudden we're talking about flows, we're talking about user segmentation, we're talking about adding a lot of different principles that were not included before. So as it's building it, did I answer your question to a certain extent? So it's still building. Any other questions? Anything that is there anyone left from the AI committee? If it's not, if they want to add anything? That's a fair point. Sorry? That is true, yeah. The aha moment would come as soon as it's done.
As we're running to the aha moment, I guess the question is when you're trying to work on a new idea and you set up a new project, what are the things that you usually okay, let me set up my prompt in this the project prompt in this specific way. What do I usually immediately connectors to and stuff like that to kind of get to immediately get very good results as you're tackling different prompts on different aspects of the product, let's say, that you
Yeah.
envision or build or research.
That's a great point. So what I typically do from my side is, if I have no idea, I'm starting what you call a cold start, I typically start out with the research. So what I would do is I would tell it something like this, and I would say, do this research for me because I would like to understand this space better before I even ask anything. The one thing that I do, which is, I'll show you a slightly different prompt. I usually have a prompt like this, which is your highly analytical, experienced product learning guide, and I give it a whole bunch of different things, and I actually put in, I don't know if you guys can read it. I put in things such as, what is your role? What is your philosophy? What is your bias? I don't know why it's not scrolling. Oh, there it is. And what's your operating principle? So I like the AI first to be what I call a sparring partner. So what it does is it challenges. So the feedback to be honest, cut out all the niceness, think about challenge my AI assumptions, and ask about necessary things such as evals, guardrail metrics. The reason I was showing that this is first of many because what I was talking about is very, very basic. We haven't even talked about what truly building looks like. This is just about what the UI can be. You're in an exploration phase. To your point, it ends up becoming that you have to, so I basically do this kind of prompt where then I have product frameworks. So I have a whole bunch of product frameworks that I use around market strategy, around differentiation moats, how do you make money, what differentiates you from everybody else. All of those things allow me to, so it's a pretty long one. This allows me to have an AI that can actually challenge my questions, ask follow-ups, and through that process, I am able to build my initial perspective on what is it that I'm looking to do. The other thing that I also do is I have my own, I'll share the artifact later with this group if it's interested, but I have like an AI-based, like a Claude artifact that allows you to actually create your own prompt and product requirements document from user research and everything else. So what that does is, it basically, you can put in all the details. So if you have, in your case, for instance, if you were to take the same example, let me go to the, let me see where, all right, the aha moment wasn't quite, see, so that's the thing, and that's perfectly fine. What we told it to do was build a form. It's like, all right, let's simplify this. We have funded founders where we have this kind of stuff, and it has not quite detected. Is it done building or is it still building? Let me see. Yeah. So it looked at my requirements. Like, all right, it loads well. It has a submit confirmation button. It has some animations, I guess, and it has like a wait list, and it basically said like, this is your production ready features, good to go. This is a perfect example for when you are starting to build with AI, this is what your first experience is going to look like, right? You have not provided too much detail, you're iterating on it. This is what your experience looks like versus what I had built here, for instance. If I were to show you my version of the app that I gave Replit as an example, which is a different tool, and I wasn't planning on explaining. How many people here have used Replit? Great. So in Replit, you can actually deploy. So absolutely. So to your point, a tool like Replit, you can actually, this is the flow that I was talking to you about, right? Like, so you can actually provide it with a better flow, and it would actually build something like this. And as you click on stuff, it would generate stuff for you. It would immediately say, all right, you're an active builder. What are the different things that you can do? You can use the prompts here. It does what you call progressive disclosure. All of those things come in, so this kind of interface is one that you can build once you provide a much more detailed, multi-page prompt and context with it, right? The other part I was going to show you here was that I built it in two different ones. So there is this one, and then you saw my other one, which was the admin prompt, which looked at all the live feeds, and it provided all the details, which you saw here. This is the same dashboard version that you're seeing here, automatically filling in all the different things, identifying what the gaps are and stuff like that, having a live feed, that kind of stuff. So the point I was trying to make was, the reason I made this form earlier was because I realized that whenever what I did right now is called the live demo. In engineering, it is one of the most stressful things. Most engineering teams, as I'm sure a lot of your engineers here, would not want to do a live demo. You always record a demo before the actual demo because things fail all the time, right? There are uncertainties. I have no idea. AI is called non-deterministic. Non-deterministic means you don't have a specific binary 0 or 1 output. It could be anything, and it can go in a very different direction, as you saw today. So that is the whole thing about AI, and that's why it's challenging, right? If you have never built products, this is the difference between what you're seeing here is between someone like me who was able to build this in 20 minutes versus someone like in our example of Ahmed who has never built stuff but can actually quickly generate stuff using AI. That's the difference, right? And then slow, but the good thing is that by using AI more and more, you can actually start to get there. And the reason I droned on earlier about what are the 5 or 6 different types of people that work within product is because you need that user researcher, you need that designer, you need to have sketches, and you can actually take photos of sketches to say this is what I want the form to look like, and AI would do an amazing job of converting that form. But because it has no context, it's just struggling, right? Like it's just trying to give you something like this, which which is very subpar. Like you would never use it as a human, but AI is like, hey, I have no context. I think this is pretty good. So that's a little bit of a difference and dichotomy between when you give context versus when you don't give context. The last part around context is that this is what we saw here is just a prompt. It's not even the context. What's happening now is, I'll just give you a bit of a meta before we close, because we have gone way over, is in the future, as we are now building apps like now, your context is essentially, as the people are using your app, you start getting a ton of signals, and that builds context, and that becomes your moat. What happens is, building things like these, the one that I have built here, well, not this, but like what I showed you earlier, is very easy. People can build and people can ship those really fast. But what makes you unique and what makes you different is how you use the data. Because it's very easy to generate the data now, and the data that you generate for yourself will become your moat. And you can use that data to make your models better. And you can use the data to make your models smarter, your search relevance a lot better. So all of those things change because you're able to get more context and feed that back into the model. And as long as you have the proper guardrails, as long as you have the proper production-ready tools, you're doing proper testing, that's where you start to see how the products can be very differentiated, very unique, and very personalized to your needs. And that was the purpose of this particular workshop, which was to give you a sense of when you are building, how building can seem easy. When you see the news, you see that you can actually build things really fast, but in reality, it's not that simple. And if you have done it, then you can use these tools to really fast-track you. And that was the point I was trying to make. So hope Claude actually proved it. So I'm glad that that was the case. So yeah, I hope you liked it. And if there are any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy. I do volunteer a fair bit, and I also advise companies outside when I have some time on more advanced topics as well. So the things that I'm really working on these days are things here, things such as the sessions 2 and 3 are the kind of things that I am really passionate about, which is how do you build, how do you do the tool design, what is like an LLM judge, that kind of stuff where you can use this. So this is the second part, which is if the second part of the form is that if you were to use the QR code, you can provide these details. And if you want me to reach out to you, you can tell me, and I'm more than happy to reach out. So you can fill out the second part of the form. It will give MCC AI team more insights into what are we looking at. And then the second part, what it would do is, if you want me to help with anything, I'm more than happy to take that time and help. All right. Absolutely. This is probably longer than usual session.
Thank you very much again.
Absolutely. Nice to meet you.
Okay, actually we have some snacks. Let's go and have please. Otherwise, we start bye.
I have been using
I'm just
three different tools. So
I was